Are you wanting to appeal your property taxes? We are coming down to the wire. You just have a few days left. I have a special guest here today on the show that is an expert in this field to share a little more information with that. Ever dreamed of living in the heart of the Colorado mountains? Join me, Matt Dayton, Breckenridge native, Olympian, and mountain real estate expert. Here on the Ski Summit Show, we dive into everything you need to know about buying, investing, and living in iconic ski towns like Breckenridge, Frisco, and Keystone. From mountain real estate trends to investment opportunities, we bring you on the inside to help you make the most of your mountain life. Welcome to the Ski Summit Real Estate Show, number 115. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Matt Dayton. I'm your host, Cornerstone Real Estate. I'm here with Benji, my producer, and Benji does. Hey, Benji, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I love showing up to these things.
Oh, man, it's good to be here. It's good to be live. Today, we've got Jim Schwalls with Schwalls Associates, and his firm specializes in helping people with property tax appeals and evaluations. Jim, thanks for being here.
Hi, Matt. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, usually something that seems like a very dry topic is a pretty big topic of conversation right now. I, for one, know that I need to get mine in. I've been kind of trying to help some of my clients through this appeal process, but there's a lot to dive into and a lot to understand. So appreciate you being here to help us unpack this. What are you kind of seeing these days as far as the property tax valuations? I'm hearing a lot of people not liking what they're seeing.
Well, the biggest thing to remember about Colorado property taxes, Summit County, is that every other year is the reappraisal year. So 2025 is the reappraisal year, and that is the taxes that you'll pay during 2026.
Okay.
You can pay either half or you can pay it all, depending upon how you choose to pay. But the 2025 valuations are based upon data collection up until June of 24. And so the last reappraisal was in 23, and that used market data up until June 23. And so it's a little bit behind in terms of time frame, but that allows the assessors time to analyze the data and to come up with adjustments that they think are appropriate given what the market has done since June of 22 to June of 24. So from June of 22 to June of 24, different properties in different parts of the county have moved at different rates. And you might see an increase of 10, 15, 20% over that 2-year period. It just kind of depends on the individual property and where it's located and what sales data is available for the assessor to see. So one of the things that we're real fortunate with there in Colorado is from the Tabor and from the Gallagher amendments, the ratio of appraisal is down to less than 8%. So if they got your house on for $1 million, 8% is only $80,000 in terms of assessed value. For land, it's 29%, so $1 million would be on the roll for $290,000. And commercial property, that same thing. If it's on the roll for $1 million, appraisal would be taxed at $290,000. So as a residential, we have quite a break in terms of what the taxes that we're paying in comparison to land or commercial or business personal property. And you look like you had questions. So
you brought up the land part, and that's such an interesting thing. Like that, if I've got a piece of vacant land, can actually pay more than that than I would on my house.
Yes.
And I don't understand the logic behind that.
It all came about when Colorado started doing every biannual reappraisals back. I think it really got started doing that in the early 80s, and really go back and think through, some brain cells have slept since then, but everything started off at 29% of value. And then the Gallagher Amendment and the Tabor all was trying to restrict, because over time, what generally ends up happening is the residential part of the tax roll increases in value more than the commercial part at a faster rate. So what our legislators thought for us is to keep the percentage of tax being paid in total by all homeowners to be residential to be the same as what it was before the reappraisal. So that has caused that ratio to drop from 29% down to less than 8%.
Okay. Oh.
And it is a little different that you can end up with a piece of land paying at 29%, a commercial property paying at 29%, but residential is at less than 8%. And
Well, I'm
so
definitely glad I don't have to pay 29% on my house. I'd be moving.
and it's a big break. Every year, all that the assessor's doing is determining the individual values on each property, and then it's up to the various entities, the school, the county, the fire district, etc., to come up with what their tax rates are. And so they're determining how much money they're spending by their budgets. So it's a two-part equation. It's the value times the millage rate equals what you pay on. So I would urge people to really think in terms of what budget do you want the local taxing authorities to use for things. It's easy to say, hey, it's only a 5% increase or it's only a 10% increase, but when you do that across an awful lot of taxpayers, it adds up and everything. But the deadline that you're talking about is Monday the 9th, and you got to have it postmarked by then or deliver it over there to the assessor's office there in Breck by the 9th. It's the same deadline for Eagle County as an example as it is but also for all of the metro Denver area as well.
Okay.
And so you file an appeal with the assessor's office, and you can attach information about your property. Let's say that you had repairs that you needed to do. Let's say that there was something wrong with your property. Let's say you had, any kind of damage, any kind of issues. Point it out. The appraisers there at Summit County are really pretty fair about taking that information that you provide and looking at it and seeing, do they need to adjust what they're doing on your property vis-a-vis the comparable sales that they're using to value your property. We had talked offline about how they do that. Use my house there on Wagon Road as an example. I'm on the part of Wagon east of Highway 9, and if you go up the road there, part of it's paved, and then my part's not paved. And so I'm on a dirt road, and I do have water frontage with the Blue River, and then I have a view of the mountains. And so the gradients that they use are whether you are on a paved road or not, whether you're on city sewer or not. In my case, I'm on a septic. And then whether I have water or not, and then the class of view. So my neighbor sitting right next to me, he has an amazing view out his backyard. I mean, not that my view is horrible, but his is quite a bit better. So when they are picking sales comparables, they use those gradients on the property in addition to the year of construction and the square footage. And the computer system automatically goes out there and it identifies, 4 sales comparables that it finds as representative for yours. And then it adjusts based upon those characteristics. So if my neighbor has a better view than mine, it might add as much as a couple $100,000 in value to his over mine, because as you know, when you sell a property, you get a better price for something that has a great view of the ski area.
It's pretty big.
So those differences make quite a bit of difference. But if you turn in your appeal to the assessor's office, then one of the staff appraisers that's assigned to your area of the county will look over the information you present and the sales comparables that the computer picked, and then see, does it look fair? Does it look interesting or look appropriate? And then after they finish what they call an assessor's review, then they send you a notice. And if you don't like the value, if you like it, you're done. and you just go away.
Yeah.
Some of the assessors will actually call you or send you an email or something that says, hey, we had you on for $1 million, but looking at the damage that you mentioned and looking at the comps again, we're willing to, and you put down an opinion of 800,000, we're willing to give you 900,000. If you're willing to accept that, you can sign a settlement with them and it's done. Or if you don't like that assessor's review number, then you actually file back to the county commissioners. And the Summit County commissioners, they hire in referees that come in. Usually there's 2 referees to hear any given appeal, and you go and make your pitch this is in person, you go and make your pitch to the referees, and the assessor's representative is there, and you just talk it through with those referees, and those referees decide, okay, I think Jim's closer to right, so we're going to rule the 800,000 versus the 900,000 or versus the $1 million. You can't actually go beyond that level to appeal to the state or to district court, but those are really, really rare in the case of residential properties.
That's good to know. I didn't know what that next process was. One thing you mentioned that I wanted to ask you about. So you said I think you said by June 9th. So the appeal form says by June 8th, but that's a Sunday. So did they just roll that over to the next business day?
Rolls over to the day of the 9th, yes. And it's got to be just postmarked by that day. Yeah. It doesn't have to be postmarked and everything by that day.
Okay. So, all right, well, I'm going to try to get mine in before the weekend just to be safe. But
the best thing is try to get it in the mail safely.
I think that's a good idea. And it looks like they have an email address on there too that you can submit it.
Right. On the original notice that you got, they have, a little code that you can go on and use that code. I forgot the name of it exactly there at Summit, but they use that code and you can find out information from it, how they value you, as well as file the appeal on it.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the appeal form that you have, kind of outlines that and reasons and comparable sales, and you can attach other things. Your schedule number, just to kind of give an idea of how you get to this, is you go on to the county assessor's website, go to government up here, over to assessor, down to notice of valuation archive search. That's going to take you to this form. Your schedule number will be on your little thing that you got in the mail from the county. And then from there you can go in, and then that'll land you here at this form as well. So anyway, just wanted to share that really quick. Now, so Jim, if I'm looking at my assessment, what kind of process would you go through to even determine, okay, should I appeal? It may be a waste of time. They may be, have all their ducks in a row and it might be accurate.
Well, one of the things that really helps is having a relationship with your realtor, your broker, because then the broker can tell you, roughly this is what yours is worth, or maybe you follow them and you follow the newsletters or the things that they will send you, and it'll give you an idea of what things are selling for in your area, or that some will actually provide you. You mentioned you've helped some of your clients, and so they might provide you a list of comps that have actually occurred in your neighborhood. Those things give you a good idea of, the things are selling for $400 or $300 a foot or whatever they're selling for. And that will give you an idea of is the value somewhat fair? And then the things that are most important to me is just making sure those characteristics are right. And so as much as you can, at least the first time through, because this is an every other year process, just make sure that they have the characteristics right. I know, like on my home, we had the tarn, the dam at the tarn. Well, the dam at the tarn, the last time around, was in the middle of being repaired, in the middle of being fixed. It took almost a 3-summer project to get all that all done. Well, the tarn damage really affected some of the properties on our street to make sure that they were protected. And I felt like that affected the value, and the assessor's office, to me, recognized it, but not enough. And so that's why I went to have beyond to the county commissioners or to the magistrate or the hearing officer that heard it, and they sided with me when we cited all the facts about where was actually the construction on the repairs for the dam. There's one neighbor that is right next to the dam, and he was particularly affected by everything that was going on. But in my case, one time, a long time ago, they had my out basement as 100% finished, and it's not. It's only partial.
Yeah.
They had down that I had 3 fireplaces, and I don't. I have 2. And different things like that you look at to just make sure that they've got you fair in relationship to what you really have. I mean,
that's the easiest, right? Just as square footage, year, location characteristics are going to be your easiest things to look at first. Yeah. And then you mentioned looking at the comparable sales. What if I've got a property that is really unique, and because we're got to look at the sales between, you said January 2022 and June of 2024, right?
Yeah, January of 23 until June of 24. They get an 18-month look back.
Okay. So what if I can't find any comparable sales? I got a unique property. There's just nothing else that's sold in that time frame. What other data would I look for to provide them?
Yeah, that's when it gets really difficult. That's when having a relationship with your realtor is really helpful, because then you're like looking at other market evidence that might be out there, that might be wider afield from just, right down the street, and finding something to show, okay, this issue on the property, because it's unique, is either a plus or a minus in terms of that in relationship to sales that have happened.
Okay. And then do they look at, like, if I were to say, okay, just looking at Summit Cove, Dillon, my general area around me, and I can say single family homes in the time frame of the last assessment and this new one, there was only 6% appreciation, and you guys have me at 18% appreciation. Do they look at that kind of data?
That is exactly the kind of stuff on that form where you have a place to write in information or attach a form. I probably will file on my home, and they've got me at roughly, a 10 or 15% increase, and I'll write that I think that it should be, maybe a 5% increase or something like that. And usually they'll look at it and see if that's reasonable, or if I'm just being, kind of a jerk and naming a low number. And if I'm being reasonable, they're reasonable back, and we'll adjust accordingly.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really important to understand and remember, that it's like these are folks that are public servants, and they're using basically an algorithm, and that's going to provide this data, and it's not necessarily somebody that came out and hand selected and picked on you. I got a good buddy that works for county assessors in another county, and yeah, if you're going to call them up, be nice.
Yeah, they're trying, and they have a volume. I can tell you nationally, people are appealing and paying attention to their property taxes much more than they are, any other time. I think in 23 reappraisal, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was on the order of 20,000 appeals for Summit County. And
Wow.
Before that, it had maybe been 4,000 or 5,000. So it was like 4 times the volume of people were appealing. And so I think on the assessor's website had that little note, 50% of the appeals all come in the week before the appeal deadline. And so they're dealing with the volume, and, a little bit of honey goes a long way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sure they get a little overwhelmed. Here's another chart, Benji. I don't know if you can share my screen again.
It doesn't show your screen in the side there.
Oh, okay. Let's do this one. All right. So here's another chart really quick, just kind of show a little like average price per square foot. So if I go into Dillon, Summit Cove, I want to do residential single family. This might be something I would show on mine, just to be able to say, okay, between, let's say, June of 2024, 547 average price per square foot.
The last time would be June of 22. And so there in June of 22, for the 23-24 reappraisal, $516. And then go to June of 24.
Okay, so April, May, June, there.
Yeah, so 547, is the average sales price for those two timeframes. So I didn't remember the other number to start with, but that's
516. So that's about a 6% appreciation.
right.
So yeah, so that's definitely some information I'm going to want to provide for mine, because they had me well above 6% appreciation. So all right, cool. No, that's super helpful. Well, awesome. Anything else that you would give people as just a tip as far as?
I mean, just main thing I would recommend is listen to what happens for real estate information roughly in June of the year before the reappraisal. So for the 25 reappraisal, I pay attention to data that's going on in the middle of 24. And that way, you know, and I kind of just put it in a folder and then pay attention to it again in May of 25 when those values come out. And the next time will be, you know, the information as of June of 26 for the 27 tax year. And I just, every 2 years, just kind of have a chance to look at things and see, okay, where is value and what's been going on, you know, in terms of sales data. And, you know, Summit County has a great group of realtors, and obviously, Matt, you're great for communicating with your clients and letting us know this is what values are like. And then that way we can make informed decisions about whether it's time to sell or whether it's just time to stay put and be happy, you know. But the other place that helps is with tax, you know, to make sure it's fair.
And so, and you've with the Schwalls and Associates, you guys have done this for a lot of people. Somebody that doesn't want to take this on themselves and just wants to have somebody do this. This is something service you guys actually offer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we do. Is mainly we do commercial properties all across the country. You know, we have properties in 40 different states, but it's something that when you represent business owners, you tend to represent their houses and you represent their vacation homes, whether it be at the lake or whether it be in the mountains, you know. And then with us having lived there, people have gotten to know me and tend to just give me a call or send me an email and say, hey, Jim, what's up this year? And I use those same type of sources like you pointed out, Matt, to just see, okay, this looks fair or this doesn't look fair, and then go through the process for them so that it's guided. And I mean, I'm just, the only difference is I'm very more practiced at how to talk to them and more practiced at what information is there. And I'm a little bit kind of like a third party, not really a referee, because obviously I'm an advocate for my clients, but by the same token, you know, I'm a little bit more, I don't get wrapped up in what the taxes are. And that would be the other advice, you know, I've said a little bit of honey, you know, in terms of communication, but the rep has nothing to do with the tax. They have everything to do with the value. And the tax is more determined by the elected officials.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can influence what the value.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it can be, you know, a lot of footwork and can be complicated, and you know, sometimes it's nice to just have an advocate. So you got the webpage for Jim Schwalls and Associates, schwalls.com. We'll put the link down below. If you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to Jim on that. And just like I don't want to work on the engine of my car or remove my own spleen, sometimes it's just nice to have somebody that does it for a living. So thank you, Jim, for being here today and joining us on this. Super informative, and appreciate you taking the time.
All right, thanks.
All right, hope to see you around Breckenridge sometime soon.
Yes, July's coming.
July's right around the corner. Yep. Get the flags on the Jeep. Let's go. All right. Awesome. Well, that wraps up our show today. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Ski Summit Real Estate Show. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Either way, we appreciate you being here. Benji, thanks so much for heading things up, and we'll see you next time.